Hello, Internet! I'm Elliot the Purple Hair Doofus, and welcome to Buddy Reads, where I read a small selection of a book and review it for you. Today, we are finishing our read-through of 13 Reasons Why by J. Asher. That's right, I said finishing, so I hope you finish the book yourself, because I do not want to ruin anything for you. Where to start? Okay, Clay is in the car with Tony. He just listened to his story. And Tony is still driving, not really looking at him. And Clay starts listening to the next story. And if you remember, at the end of Clay's story, he left Hannah curled up in a ball, crying on the other side of a bed. It was incredibly sad. She is there, and the party is still going, and she is all alone in this dark, empty bedroom. Then, a couple walks in the door. This couple is her first kiss, Justin, and a girl that's not his girlfriend. And they go on the bed, and they start making out. And they are very wasted. Clay even remembers walking past them in the hallway and them stumbling down the hallway. That's how wasted they are. And they're so wasted that while they are making out, the girl passes out. Not like completely passes out, but falls asleep. She's still grunting to questions, but it's really not worth trying to say that she was really coherent. And so Justin gets out of bed. He leaves her in bed and he stands outside the door. Hannah decides that she is going to take this opportunity to leave. She gets close to leaving the door when two other footsteps come up and they try and get into the door. Hannah hides inside of a closet. And while she's in the closet, she's hearing Justin tell the other two footsteps that it's not worth it to go in there. Don't go in there. She is passed out. It's not worth it. She's just going to lie there. Don't do anything with her. Stop it, stop it, stop it. And the guy says, I have the night shift. This is my only opportunity. And Justin steps aside. And this guy, who Clay believes is Bryce, goes in and has his way with the drunk, passed out girl on the bed, while Hannah is in the closet watching. And Hannah blames herself for not stopping him. But she eventually waits until he leaves, and then leaves the closet herself, and walks down the hall to find Justin sitting on the edge of the bed with this vacant stare in his eyes, because he knows that he didn't do anything to stop him either. She doesn't actually name who did this act. It's just Clay assuming that it was Bryce. Because she knows that if she names the rapist and the rapist listens to the tapes, he will burn them all. So that story ends. And we still have Tony and Clay going to the party house. And Clay starts asking, wait a minute, why do you have the tapes? Why are you the one that is meant to be watching over everyone? And Tony explains how he was working on his car one day, and Hannah came by with her bike, and she was giving away her bike. She was giving him her bike. Clay and Tony just kind of look at each other and they say, oh yeah, that's right. It's one of the signs. If you're planning on killing yourself, you want to give away your belongings. These are the books my friend left for me 3 days before he killed himself. Well, Tony says, I can't just take your bike. I have to do something for you, for the bike. And Hannah says, well, you can help me. You make audio tapes, cassette tapes for your car. How do you make those? Tony explains it to her, and she says, you have anything for a voice? Tony gives her the recorder that she used to record all of these tapes. Clay, of course, does not blame Tony for any of this at all, because Clay couldn't see any of the signs either. And so Tony talks about getting the tapes in the mail and listening to the tapes and not understanding what any of the tapes mean because he saw Hannah at school that day. And so he calls her parents as quickly as he can. After he scans the tapes and makes sure that they aren't for him, he calls her parents and says, you need to check on Hannah. And they do. Obviously, that's why the ambulance was there. And I'm thinking, there wasn't a funeral, so there really wasn't a way for them to know that she died? Isn't it entirely possible for the parents to just move away with her and just take her out of that town, and now everybody thinks that she's dead? Perhaps that's like hopeful thinking on my part. Anyways, Clay starts listening to the next tape. Hannah is distraught after all of the action that she has just been through. That's a terrible word for it, but it's the word I'm using. And she starts walking away, and she runs into a girl named Ginny. And Ginny says, "You look like you need a ride." And Ginny is the same girl who flipped out about the whole Valentine's Day survey that they did. And so Hannah obviously tries to get a ride with Ginny. They get into the car, they start driving, and they come to an intersection, and Ginny is a little too drunk to drive. She accidentally runs over a stop sign. And Clay instantly knows the exact intersection that they are talking about. Don't know if I mentioned it or not. I think I might have glossed over it. They have been alluding to a car accident the entire book. Clay was at this car accident, and it was an old man who ran into another car, and that person died out of the car. And the old man asks Clay to go run to his house to console his wife, because she's going to worry if, he's not back. And so Clay does, because Clay's a good guy. Well, the intersection that car accident happened because there wasn't a stop sign, because Ginny ran over the stop sign. And Hannah does her best to try and get Ginny to call the cops or call someone and let them know that stop sign fell over. So Ginny blames herself for that boy's death. It's at this point that I'm kind of realizing that this book is all about blame. Passing blame onto everyone. Passing blame onto yourself, passing blame onto others. And this car crash scenario, Hannah did all she could to try and stop it. Ginny just wasn't having any of it. And the fact that the car accident happened so quickly after that stop sign was knocked over, well, it's not like she could have really done much anyways. So Hannah blames herself for that death and tries to pass the blame on to Ginny. So those are the tapes, or that's the next person that is supposed to get the tapes from Clay. He really doesn't have to listen to the rest of the tapes, but he does. I think it's mostly because he was so deeply in love with her and he wants to hear her last words. So he goes on to the next tape while he is just pretty much meandering through town, because he doesn't want to follow the map anymore. He decides that he wants to go to the park where she had her first kiss. He's listening to the next tape, and it's about another party. Before we get to the party, she starts talking about how she had decided to kill herself, and how the next day was the day that she was going to do it. She was trying to think of ways to do it. She's like, I don't have a gun. I don't want to hang myself because I don't want my parents to find me that way. I'll just use pills. And if my parents think it's an accident, please do not correct them. It's all really dark and disturbing. But the weekend before she had decided to do this, there was a party. She was still grounded, but she was also house-sitting, and so she was house-sitting 2 houses down from this loud party. Party dies down, and she leaves the house, and she starts walking down the street towards the house that the party was at. And as she's walking down to the house, she sees a familiar face pop over a fence with a bunch of steam, and it is Bryce. And if it's Bryce, then Bryce obviously wasn't the guy who date raped the other girl, because she said that she was not going to send the tapes to the rapist because he would just burn them, and that would be like the end of her trail. And she wanted everyone to hear the story. She sees Bryce. Bryce invites her over and finds that it's him and Courtney, and they are in a hot tub. It's at this point that Clay knows what she is doing, and Clay realizes that she is giving up. She is destroying herself because she has made the decision to kill herself. Clay gets to the park where she had her first kiss, and he climbs up on top of the rocket where she had her first kiss, and he just kind of sits by the bars while he's listening to the final tape. He puts in the final tape, and it's her, but she's whispering, and she says, "This is the last person, and this is the last chance to save me." This person is all that is standing between these tapes and you. If he fails, you are listening to these tapes. And it's my student advisor, Mr. Potter. Clay listens to her conversation with this counselor who is just trying to do his job the best that he can. But she won't give him any answers. And she won't talk about what really needs to be talked about. He asks what's going on, and she says everything is going on. He asks what everything is, and she says just life in the snowball effect. He starts to get a little somewhere when he's talking about a boy, and she won't give specifics because she doesn't want to name him, because obviously she's scared, but she won't even tell him what happened. Because she's scared. And he asks her if she wants to press charges, and she says, I don't think so. Why not? Because she's scared. I get that. But how is he going to help her if she doesn't tell him? And the whole time that Clay is listening to this, Clay is blaming him. And I'm kind of blaming her on this one. I know that she's scared. She doesn't have to name names. She only has to tell him that either she is going to kill herself or that, something horrible happened at that party. She does use the words that I want to end my life. But he asks her to repeat them, and she doesn't. And that sucks. He heard the words, and that's like my main gripe against him, is he heard the words and he didn't do anything. But she avoided him so much, and she would not let him in. She obviously needed to talk to someone, and she wouldn't talk. Actually, it was back during the previous tape. Clay remembers the last time that they talked. He was leaving a room, she was going into the room, they bump into each other, and they both say, I'm sorry. Seeing that on the outside, it's like they're sorry for bumping into each other. But seeing it from the inside, it's like, I'm sorry for that night. And it's soul-crushing. This entire book is soul-crushing. Obviously, the counselor doesn't do enough to save her. And she runs away. And she does what she does. Because the tapes were sent out. And the whole time, Clay is listening to this, and he's like screaming in the middle of this part, do something, save her, do something. But, you're listening to the tapes. He's not going to do anything. Clay reluctantly goes to school the next day, but he skips first period because it's with Mr. Potter. Clay is standing outside of Mr. Potter's classroom, deciding whether or not he wants to go in, and the girl from the bus, the one that had a crush on him, walks by, and it ends with Clay chasing after her, trying to strike up a conversation with her. And that's how the book ends. And I am emotionally destroyed right now. And that sucks because I still have to read the new Dark Tower section. This book started really meh for me, but once it got past that halfway point, holy fuck. Okay, you just destroyed me. This, perfectly encapsulates what it's like when someone in your life kills himself. I'm not quite sure it's everything I would have wanted to hear from my friend. If I would have wanted him to go into such detail about killing himself, or why. But not knowing does eat me up inside. Wondering if I could have done something does kill me inside. And I think knowing that I could have done something probably would have been worse. So she has just, cursed Clay, really. They were in love and she cursed him. Really sad. Again, I don't have a clever outro. Do all the stuff. Watch your pajama thing. Radius. Yeah. Take care of yourself. Talk to people. I'll see you in my spoiler-free review of 13 Reasons Why by Jay Asher. And do not expect it to feature Jenkins, because I do not find this book to be a laughing matter. Toodles.